Hey, hello, you. Yes, girl, you listening. Are you a non-black person that wants to be an ally but haven't seen BAPS? How about the color purple? Eve's Bayou? Are you a black person who already knows and loves these films? Well, Miss Thing, have we got the perfect podcast for you. Adventures in Black Cinema with Desmond Thorne. Join Desmond Thorne on a journey through a new black film every week and learn about how the classics, the hidden gems, and the ratchets of black cinema impact the culture and his own personal film nerd life. This short and sweet film podcast also features fun segments, games, and guests from both the film and comedy world, so you're always in for a treat. Adventures in Black Cinema. New episodes every Tuesday on all major podcast platforms. Executive produced by our homegirl, Amanda Sales. Work, girl.
When was the last time you did something just for you? Discover your summer essentials with FabFitFun, the best subscription box service delivering full-size self-care and wellness products delivered straight to your door. Their experts carefully pick from top trending products for you to personalize your own box of happiness. Just choose your plan and get ready for the best in home, fashion, beauty, wellness, and so much more. So whether it's the perfect beach blanket, a handy wine chiller, or aloe vera gel, FabFitFun has you covered for all of your fun in the sun needs. You'll get to choose some of the products to go in your box while the rest are a surprise. Plus, you can access other perks like flash sales and new items up to 70% off. FabFitFun is more than just an incredible value. It's me time in a box. All about the brands you love, the brands you will love, and doing something that's just for you. Visit fabfitfun.com for 50% off your first box while supplies last when you use code TALKSHOW. That's fabfitfun.com, code TALKSHOW.
Scarpins Avenue.
Happy birthday, Lady Bunny.
Happy birthday.
Isn't it your birthday?
No, my birthday's in August, crazy.
Oh.
Aren't you sweet for just wanting to celebrate me all year long? Why is that funny?
Girl?
Why is that funny?
Because
Isn't that what most people do all over the world? Celebrate me, forget pride.
Bunny, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm on tour. I love exhausting myself and then sleeping. I sleep better on tour than at home, so something's fucked up about my home.
Well, I am a very big plane sleeper. Like, people were like, girl, how do you do it? I sleep on the planes. I was like, I have had some of the best sleep in my life, especially when before the Pond de Replay, when you're like traveling every single fucking day, and then I would just before the plane even takes off, I am knocked out and I don't wake up until like we have like arrived at the gate. Like, I would sleep from wheels before they go up until we're at the gate every time.
I'm not that lucky with sleep on flights, but I used to on a long flight if I'd like worked on a Friday night and had to be in LA on Saturday. Of course, you lose time or you gain time flying West Coast. I would take a sleeping pill on long flights. Honey, if I would sleep good then, but if that plane ever crashed, honey, no. I would wake up when I hit the water or the mountain or whatever. I mean, I would be good for nothing.
When I would have long ones, like what is it, transcontinental, I would definitely take a good edible. Like when we go to Australia, I take like a good 20 milligram edible, and I'll be good for the duration of the flight until I wake up like hungry and thirsty as hell.
Well, speaking of trans,
I know.
we have a fascinating guest who is someone I met, decades ago, and with a fascinating story.
Yeah, we're very excited. I'm happy that you got Brian. This is going to be a very fun interview. I'm excited already.
Yes, get ready for Brian Belovich, who is the author of the book Transfigured, and an actor and a singer and all of it.
Yes, and a human.
Yes.
Human being.
You mean people can be human outside of their gender orientation or sexual cravings? I did not know that.
Girl,
Somebody's going to come up with this crazy theory. We're all human. Like, if you could hear this, you're human. I know. It was too crazy. It was just one of my silliest theories. I would now like to introduce the author of Transfigured, My Journey from Boy to Girl to Woman to Man, and the subject of the documentary, I'm Gonna Make You Love Me by Karen Bernstein. Brian Belovich, who is also known and who I met as Tish Gervais. Welcome to the show.
Welcome, Brian.
Hi, everybody.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm very happy to be here. I love this show.
Thank you.
That's great. A lot of my old timer friends don't always listen to podcasts, but no, they just don't listen to podcasts. So if I post something about it on Instagram, they're like, "Oh, good episode." If I post something on Facebook, they're like, "Wah, wah."
What's that?
It just like they just don't care. They don't listen to podcasts. They're not hip like us, Brian.
Well, I don't listen to many podcasts, but I do like this one very much.
Oh, honey, she's doing the right thing. She's starting off with a compliment. I mean, he's starting off with a compliment. Okay,
she.
Brian.
My pronouns are he, him, and oh, her.
Okay. and
Oh, her.
And we want to just say that you identify as a cis gay male of trans experience. Just so that we get that right. So now, honey, how long have we known each other?
Oh, do we really have to say?
Yes, I want to know.
Oh my God. 1980.
Well, I mean, I moved here into New York in 1983, but we met through Nelson Sullivan, the video guy. And have you seen Nelson's thing on FX? Are you in?
Oh,
his
yes.
Thing? It's for Pride Month. Yeah,
yes.
They're showing. Nelson Sullivan is the videographer who took a lot of footage of the East Village, the downtown scene. Brian, as Tish Gervais, the trans performer, was there in much of the footage, as were, early RuPaul, me, Lahoma, all that crew. Everyone, really, Dean Johnson.
Everybody.
The Boy Bar, everyone. And so that's who we met, because Nelson was walking around with his camera, and here is this gorgeous creature with very thick, curly hair, and I always loved your look because it was so, the film stars of the 40s did not wear the heavy lashes. They wore a light makeup look, and you had like that big, thick, almost like, who is the Rita Hayworth.
Rita Hayworth.
Because it was all about beautiful skin and not the heavy caked on eye makeup that I wore. It was like a lighter eye and a red lip, and then the full hair.
That was it.
Were there who were some of your inspirations when you were living as Tish Gervais? And before I even go into that, let me just say that I met Tish Gervais, performed with Tish Gervais, a trans performer with a fascinating story we're going to get into. Tish, or Natalia, another name, but Tish was a nickname, had a remarkable transition from Rhode Island and then detransitioned to be male. And there's also fascinating subjects from drug addiction to HIV positive and all this within that story. But let's get back to the movie stars. Did you who did you idolize?
Oh my God, I loved Rita Hayworth.
She's gorgeous.
Rita Hayworth and all of the, Lana Turner. Lana Turner, Barbara Stanwyck.
Love.
Susan Hayward. All these.
I'm looking at a lot of your pictures, and it's yours. Well, from the pictures I'm seeing, your style seems very pin-up-y. It's like
pin-up,
it was very pin-up. It was very sexy, and I love like this like signature pompadour. Was that like your signature thing?
Yes, I always kind of just threw my hair up, and it was very thick and curly, and did a little pompadour with a French twist.
Oh yes,
that was my thing.
And this was not a weave. This was
not
all
a weave.
you.
Oh, this is all you?
Oh yes.
Oh,
all me. Yeah.
Well, can I borrow some? Because I am sitting over here balding as hell. Nothing.
Well, you also had rather prominent breasts, which contributed to the pinup look, of course.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was like a brunette Diane Brill, they used to say.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you were
Diane
also
and I was Sophia Loren, and she was Jane Mansfield back in the day.
and you were referred to as an it girl.
Yeah.
Meaning what? Meaning it,
but not
what?
it like it in a derogatory
Not
way.
he, she, it.
Okay.
Not like a it, like it's an
Got
it.
it. Like
More
you're
like I don't even know if we can say the it girl now. That might be politically incorrect. We might get backlash.
I don't worry about that.
We
on
might
this
get
show.
trolled. Trolled.
Oh, honey, we
She
are
referred
trolls.
to her as it.
No, baby, we are trolls. They can't troll us.
That's
trust
right.
me. You can't troll the trolls.
So you guys, so you met Bunny when you were performing. Where were you like? So I'm very curious. Back then, was it like you had your set nights? Like, were you like every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at this club, or like how was the scene? Like, because you were obviously a very popular performer and entertainer at the time. Like, were you like the girl who was working every night of the week?
I was working out. I was going out every night of the week.
Okay.
I wasn't working. We would get bookings. I had a live stage show that I did with a band, and I had backup singers. I was billed as the girl with something extra, the bombshell of rock and roll. And I did a lot of gigs at Limelight and Palladium and Danceteria.
We performed together at the Dukes and Divas thing that Gabriel Rotella put together with a live band.
Yes.
And you were also a contemporary and close friend of Michael Musto for all these years.
Yes. And I was kind of an anomaly because I was a trans woman singing with my own voice. And, not too many girls were doing that other than Jane County. We have to give, Jane.
We interviewed Jane County. Jane was a great,
the legendary Jane County. She was, one of the first really that was, and I was just trying to carve out a career, like anybody else. And,
You were a big fan of Diana Ross, but you also liked, I think you used to cover Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka. So there was a vintage thing going on too.
Yeah. It was like 50s, 60s rock and roll.
And that was like an 80s thing to do, is really to go back 2 decades and do, like kitsch from the 50s and 60s. We were kind of all about that look.
Yeah.
Some might say I still am. As I approach my 60s.
So, Brian, you have such a fascinating story. The only person that I know with a story similar to yours is Flame Monroe. Flame Monroe has a story, Flame transitioned and detransitioned, and but she still lives her life with breasts and all those things, and so it's truly fascinating.
Wow.
And has children.
And has children. When did you transition? Because you say boy to girl, girl to woman, woman to man. When did you transition from boy to girl in your headspace?
I was in my teens. I was 16, and I was already, experimenting with HRT.
Oh, okay.
I was following
which is hormone replacement therapy for those that don't know.
Yeah, well, hormone replacement therapy, and I would just go to the doctor or the girls, the older girls that kind of took me under their wing, would just give me some of their prescriptions. So I had started considering transitioning in my teens, and then I really fully transitioned. I was, 18, 19. I was really
And by
living.
fully, you mean like you were like on like a strict regimen of HRT?
Yeah, HRT and silicone and
Implants.
electrolysis. I didn't get
silicone implants.
I didn't get my implants until my 21st birthday. But I
Now, was
remember
that a gift to yourself or a gift from a zaddy?
it was a gift from my my then fiance, future husband at the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, is this the military guy?
Yeah, the GI.
Well, tell us about that, because you were,
Oh my
not
God,
only
tell
trans,
me.
but listen, Tish was lovely and she completely passable.
I mean, the
so
pictures.
Passable. Yeah, they're so passable that she went to live on a military base with her husband in
That
Germany.
is correct. Oh my God. Okay, Brian. Okay, continue. This is fierce.
Yeah, I was 23 and he was 19.
Wow.
And one day, we'd been dating for a while, and one day he came home from work and he's like, he kept losing jobs. He couldn't keep a job. He had a very bad temper. And he came home one day and he said, "Oh, hey, I went to the recruitment office and I signed up to join the Army." And I was like, "Are you out of your can you swear? Are you out of your fucking mind? The Army? What the hell?" And, me being the self-centered bitch I was back then, what the hell am I going to do? I'm going to sit here knitting sweaters waiting for you to get home? I mean, he's like, "Oh, well, maybe you can come with me and maybe we can get married." And I'm like, "Married?" So little Miss Intrepid, always trying to figure out a way to make things work. I had a female ID.
Wow.
I went down to the
How
city.
did you get that? I mean, to be fair,
I changed my name. I changed
Okay.
my name legally from Brian Belovich to Natalia.
Got it.
Bello.
And your gender marker said female.
And the gender marker came back, and the woman looked at me through the counter and looked at me and looked at the form and checked F and flipped it back through the box. And I said, "Okay, I got the Rhode Island State driver's license that said female, and went and applied for the marriage license." And, my thinking back then was like, why not? I should be married like anybody else. And so...
And this was someone, your book has photos of your engagement night, or was it
the wedding? The wedding.
The wedding.
Yeah.
And so, but, obviously your husband knew what was going on.
Yeah,
He knew
of
your
course.
tea, as they say.
Yes, he knew the tea. Yes, I met him in a gay bar in Providence,
Got it.
Rhode Island. And, he had, I don't want to talk too much about his personal busyness, but he had his own experiences.
Got it.
He was a doorman at the bar we used to hang out after school. We'd go downtown to the bar. But we got married and then had a ceremony, a wedding. His family attended. No one knew.
Wow.
The family didn't know. My mom was there. My little brother, they knew.
Right.
Friends from college. It was all under the radar, very stealth. And back then, it was much safer to be that way. Like today, you could be trans, and it's like a great, beautiful, it's not a big secret like it was back then. But I was very in the closet about all that stuff. And then we got married, and he went overseas. He got stationed in Germany, and I went over there to live with him.
For how long did you live in Germany?
I was there for over a year. And I was traipsing around the Army base and the barracks and the PX and having coffee and donuts with the other wives and doing Tupperware parties and carrying on.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's rumor has it there's another story that has similar aspects.
Would that be Hedwig and the Angry Inch?
Oh, yes. Rumor, allegedly.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there are also comparisons drawn with Jane
me
County's
and
story,
Jane,
who went over to Germany in her adulthood. So was that? I mean, you'd already been passing as a woman for years, but was that at all scary? I mean, you get on a plane to a foreign country. Mm-hmm. You don't know if you're going to be, recognized as trans. Like you say, back then, stealth was important. Like passing, because if you didn't, you were kind of in trouble. There wasn't this huge, movement celebrating trans people.
No, not at all. No, it was terrifying. I write a lot about it in my book, actually. There's a whole chapter on my trip going to Germany, and I had taken a couple of pills to pass out on the plane because I was so terrified of going through customs. And when I got there, I had to go through this military checkpoint. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that I was going to have to go through this military checkpoint. So I'm like, oh, now if they don't clock me now, they'll never clock me. So I got through the checkpoint. And the guy looked at me. He looked like he was ready to eat a big meal. He was like looking me up and down like a hungry wolf. He was like, "Oh, hello, miss. How are you today?" And he's like, his tongue hanging out. And I said, "Okay, I'm getting through this one. Check." So then I got through that. Then the next hurdle was going over to the base and getting my military ID and my photo ID for, to get on and off the base. And that was another, check. Got through that.
Wow.
And it was terrifying.
Care Of is a wellness brand that makes it easy to maintain your health goals with a customized vitamin plan that helps you feel your best today and supports you long term.
All of Care Of's products are formulated with good-for-you, clean ingredients that are backed by science. Care Of is super transparent about the research and sourcing behind each one of their products.
Your recommendations come in daily, individually wrapped packets that are perfect for getting back into a nice, steady routine.
Care Of's in-depth 5-minute online quiz asks you questions about your diet, lifestyle, and health concerns to address your specific wellness goals.
And y'all, for real, the quiz is fun, quick, and easy to take. Right now, I'm taking their magnesium for muscle recovery and their pocket protector quick stick for upping my immune system because it's cute, like a little packet of gum or something that dissolves in your mouth, and it's super convenient for on the go.
For 50% off your first Care Of order, go to careof.com and enter code EBONY50. Again, that's for 50% off your first Care Of order, go to careof.com and enter the code EBONY50.
Again, y'all, that's 50% off your first Care Of order. Go to takecareof.com and enter code EBONY50.
Monet, it is Pride Month for all of June, and I want to express myself with a glamorous new beverage that lets me be my best, most unapologetic self. Do you possibly have any recommendations of any delicious new beverage that I could try?
I do, and it's Bev, honey. Bev is the female-first canned wine brand that was founded to change not only the way a product is consumed, but the way an industry and culture have operated for generations.
Oh my God, I feel so feminine just having the first sip.
I know. Bev is breaking norms and creating something from the female perspective that is approachable, fun, and consumer-centric. She is about inclusion, giving a voice to those who have been historically silenced, because Bev wants you to be your loudest and proudest self.
Does Bev know that we're not real women?
Speak for
just
yourself,
kidding. Bev has 5 varietals: Rosé, Sauve Blanc, Pinot Gris, Pinot Noir, and a sparkling white wine, Bev Glitz.
Ooh.
My favorite is Bev Glitz.
Ooh, why?
Because I like the way it sparkles.
Ooh. And all of the wines have 0 sugar and only 3 carbs. That's 100 calories per serving.
They're crisp, dry, and a little fizzy. Super refreshing. Perfect for summer.
Perfect for summer brunch, drinks in the park, and seeing friends for the first time in over a year. Or not.
You drink in the park?
I sure do. Don't all whores do?
Each can is a glass and a half of wine, perfect for when you don't want to open a bottle of wine just for yourself. And 124 pack is equal to 8 bottles of wine.
And Bev ships straight to your door, and shipping is always what? Free.
Glam is Bev's newest, most fabulous member of the family. She's a refreshing, sparkling rosé, extra dry, extra fizzy, and here just in time for summer. 0 sugar, as always.
Glam is unapologetic about who she is, and she inspires others through her confidence and radiating inner beauty.
Glam's tagline, there's no place like out.
I love that. That's like Pride, but also like the end of quarantine. That's cute. That's cute. That's cute. All right, Bev. Through the end of Pride Month, Bev has teamed up with Way Out and is donating all Glam sales up to $10,000 to support Way Out's youth center initiatives and locations across the country. People can learn more about the initiative on Bev's website.
We've worked out an exclusive deal for Ebony and Irony listeners. Receive 20% off your first purchase, plus free shipping on all orders. I highly recommend their newest sparkling rosé, Bev Glam, or try their best-selling Ladies Night variety pack for all of their refreshing varietals. Go to drinkbev.com/ebony. Use code ebony at checkout to claim this deal. That's drinkbev.com/ebony. For 20% off. Use code ebony at checkout to claim this deal.
That's fierce.
There's another story of a trans woman who was dating a GI called Soldier Girl. Soldier Story or Soldier...
Is that Calpurnia?
Yeah,
Adams?
Calpurnia story. Yeah.
And was Calpurnia...
The guy, her boyfriend, was murdered.
Oh, my God.
This is a true story.
Yeah, there's a documentary about it. Calpurnia is also from Tennessee, so we do. I don't know her from there, but I know her from LA.
I mean, that was much later than my story, but it was very dangerous and very terrifying. I had a lot of anxiety, of course, but I smoked a lot of weed and hash. I was stoned half the time, so I really didn't give a shit. But there was a lot of terrifying moments.
Doesn't weed lead to paranoia? It can.
It can if you're a virgin, but if you are a woman about your business and you know what you're doing, you good, girl.
Yeah.
So you had transition, and then when was the conscious? Like was there a signifying thing in your life that happened, or were you just taking like a retrospective of your life and you're like, I want to detransition? Like, talk to us about like that movement from woman to back to man.
Well, before you go there, first let's talk a little bit about. So your marriage ended. You came back from Germany.
Yeah.
You were a hit on the New York nightclub scene, and you were also escorting. And I saw that you began your recovery from drugs in 1986.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I thought this was something that was in the 90s. So literally a couple years after we met, you came off the drugs, which had become a big problem.
Yes. Yeah, I got sober in 1986. And, up until that point, I had been, I'd always been using different things over the years, but eventually, cocaine and crack and the nightclubs, the lifestyle, the escorting, turning tricks with, a lot of times, a lot of the calls we went on, I worked for an agency, and a lot of times there was always freebase, cocaine, these guys, they need to get that going on to get, to get them in the mood. And so I became quickly addicted to that. And, anyone in recovery will tell you, once you mention cocaine in their story, that's the end of it. And so it was pretty down the drain. I actually was working at the Saint, Bunny.
What were you doing there?
I was working the door at the Saint. I was the celebrity door person at the Saint.
And anytime someone says they need cocaine to get in the mood, I'm like, well, bitch, if you're not in the mood, then don't come over. You should be coming over in the mood. I'm not trying to get you there.
Well, no, they might be in the mood, but then they come over and they see you and they're not in the mood. That's why they need the cocaine.
Anyway,
they
Brian.
see you.
Continue, Brian.
So you were leading a double life.
I was leading a triple life.
Triple life.
I mean,
Okay,
I
yeah.
was living as a trans woman. I was a escort. I was celebrated in the New York nightlife as like this fabulous sort of, it girl that you mentioned earlier, and I was an addict, and people didn't know that I was an
Wow.
addict.
I only found out right before the reckoning.
Yeah.
One thing I've heard you say in an interview is sadly I wasn't accepted with open arms in the gay community as a trans woman back in the day. There
No.
was a level of envy I always felt from some gay men, and for some even a sense of disgust. The lesbian women had their issues with it too. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that because we are here in Pride Month. I don't exactly know when this will air, but I've heard from a variety of trans women, including a flight attendant who is totally passable, who was ratted out on her job by two gay men.
Oh my God,
The
really?
Oh
Recently?
yes, yes, in the last couple of years, and then of course Tracy Africa, the trans model who was featured on was it Clairol hair coloring, just a
Yes.
beautiful creature from the ballroom community in New Jersey, and it also someone in fashion
Ratted her
told
out.
her tea, and she lost her modeling gigs as a result,
Wow.
and kind of left to Paris, where she prospered there, and has only recently left. So that's really awful, and I hate that. But what do you think that is coming from when a gay person, I mean, you mentioned envy. Do you think they might want to get the dick you're getting, or they might want to go down your path but didn't have the nerve?
Well, I think it's a combination of both. I think that there is this level of, you know, I think trans folks are some of the bravest people in the world. I think it's, it takes a lot of balls to, like try to be your authentic self and really put yourself out there and open yourself up to that kind of criticism. And unfortunately, Monet asked me, we jumped ahead a little bit towards the reasoning why I made this decision, but that had a lot to do with it. I was ratted out, I would go on, auditions, and I was acting and playing cis female roles. I wasn't out, and I would go to auditions and, someone would, clock me and, like the Whispers. And so, and gay men were really nasty to me, really evil, like just, they couldn't wait. I could even see them. I could see them running over, and like if I was talking to a guy and he was a straight guy in a bar, they would tell the guy, that's a guy. That's not a woman.
Where
Yeah.
does that come from? You are now studying for a master's degree in mental health counseling. Where do you think that comes from? Because it could also be like a showbiz gossip kind of thing, because some people seek to elevate their stature by having the dirt on everyone. But
Right.
like you say, it could also be, jealousy. I
Well,
don't know where that comes from.
I know, having lived as a trans woman for so many years, and the a lot of gay men would love to have straight trade. Let's
for sure.
let's talk plain here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of gay men would love. Not everybody, but there are some gay men that fantasize. Your post on Facebook the other day about the two straight guys on the cover of that magazine, that's like clickbait. That's like,
Yes.
They're tempting the gays with like, oh, these straight guys, and making them look like, oh, they're fantasy. So, there is some truth to that, that some gay men really envied, the freedom that a trans woman would have around picking, sex partners. And I had plenty of them. Plenty.
Right.
And, and I married one of them.
Yeah.
So there is some truth to that, but I think it's also ignorance. I also think it's, back then, especially, I don't know how much it goes on now, But I think back then people were just so ignorant, and there was no sensitivity to any kind of like, the consequences of like what they were doing to people like me. I mean, we were already marginalized, and they would just further marginalize us by like pointing to us like monkeys in a zoo, like animals in a zoo.
Even in the gay community. In the gay community.
I think some of the gays, I think some of the gays from that time, I genuinely think it was some type of envy and jealousy that for lots of gay men who they were too afraid or too ashamed, because maybe now we have way more language, obviously, to put on things like non-binary and all these things that people can fit into these boxes. But back then, the fear of, well, if I'm not gay, am I trans? And maybe they didn't. I think like a lot of stuff in that arena that they were battling inside.
And we weren't being told to appreciate trans people as we are now. No. We aren't being made aware of things like trans women being murdered like we are now. We weren't being made aware of the challenges, all that kind of thing. Like you say, if you were trans, you wanted to be under the radar so that you could move unimpeded and without harassment.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Mm-hmm. That's a $10 word, Bunny, unimpeded.
Is it? Okay.
Yes, I like that. Unimpeded. Okay. I was unimpeded.
You were unimpeded?
Yeah.
Now, and may I just say that I hope that you never got anything from me except friendship and fanship and respect through every one of your incarnations.
No, actually, we have a surprise for you, bitch. Brian is about to read the fuck out of you for all the nasty things you did and said about him. The library is open, whore.
So I'm going to before we go to the
but during that time there I mean, I won't mention any names, but you and I know people that did do that to me. I'll tell you off camera, off the record.
Girl.
But I'll give you a list. I got a list.
Wild. That's so wild.
I got
to
a
me.
List. And
sometimes women.
Thank God for Nelson Sullivan, because if Nelson was transphobic, or if he had some issue with trans women, I imagine all of the history and all of the important information and stuff that we'd be lost without having Nelson's brilliant, openness to everyone.
Which people can see on FX. I don't know the name of the series, but it's Nelson Sullivan's.
It's called Pride. Yeah.
Pride. How imaginative.
Yeah. I'm in that episode a couple of times. Yeah, at the end.
And of course, Nelson also shot Christina, the over-the-top trans performer at the Pyramid. You were also associated with Trans Icon International Crisis.
Oh my God, my sister.
Tell us a little bit about how you met. Extremely beautiful performer at the Boy Bar, a former lover of Salvador Dali.
Yes. And she loved to tell us stories about him. I met
that you could share since she's gone?
I met Crisis, if I can remember. Oh my God. I met Crisis at a bar on 8th Avenue in Times Square called the Gilded Grape.
I've heard of it.
Which was it's a sushi place now, but it was a famous transgender drag bar. It was notorious. I mean, it was a huge population of all different kinds of trans women of every, age, race, diversity. I mean, just everything. And it was just such an incredible place to be. I met her there when she was doing her show at the Blue Angel. She would do a show. Wow. She would do a striptease. She was a bombshell, a very big, sexy, pinup body, and she had this act that she would do. She would do a striptease, and she would strip all the way down with her boobs hanging out, and then she would take her G-string off, and her piece would pop out.
Word. She sounds like she sounds like that queen from New York, Monet Exchange.
No, Crisis was talented.
And
Crisis also had an act where she said, my measurements are 38, 24, 38, 9. You have dirty minds. That's my shoe size.
Yeah. So, we had a lot of fun.
My measurements too.
Now, so a little pulling from an interview in 42nd Street, you were asked about when you realized that the escorting was going to be dangerous, and you were also wrestling with drugs. You said, I've had guns pulled on me by tricks that it didn't know I was trans. The scariest part, which isn't in my book or film, was one night I met Mr. Goodbar. I picked up this sexy dark-haired Eric Roberts lookalike at a Hustler bar in Hell's Kitchen. He took me back to his apartment in Tribeca and threatened to force me into whoring for him. He took a pair of scissors and was threatening to castrate me. Mm-hmm. He stuck the scissors up my nose and trimmed my nose hairs. No, and was threatening and was going to cut my nostrils. Finally, he took me at gunpoint to the ATM where I escaped. Now, was this like a rock bottom, or was this a regular occurrence?
This was... I think I'm, in the movie Wigstock, the movie, the recent HBO one that you did.
Yes.
There's that last scene of me running into the train.
Uh-huh.
Smoking the cigarette outside.
Uh-huh.
That's the night it happened.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah. That's the night it happened. It was July, so it was probably close to the bottom of, because I got sober in November. So it was July of '86, and so it was close to the bottom. But yeah, that was one of the scariest things that ever happened to me. And when I went to the police station, of course they like, oh, this woman is raped, and then I had to go through the whole rigmarole of like, oh, well, I'm not, I'm born, I'm trans, I'm transsexual. That was the word we used back then, and I was. They treated me okay, but it was still, as a trans person back then, very awkward. They didn't understand. But yeah, that was scary. I mean, I ran into this like 4-star restaurant, screaming like, he had the gun. And he was, walking me across the street from the ATM, and he's like, wait till I get you back to my apartment. You're really in for it now. And I said, shit, if I don't run, I'm going to be dead.
Yeah. So
I saw the restaurant was open. The door was wide open. I pushed him, and I ran into the restaurant screaming,
oh my God.
Help me. That's how I got away.
That is scary, and obviously we've all heard the stories of so many trans persons
that don't get away.
So that probably would have been what's going to happen next. It's so scary.
Yeah.
And then so was it experiences like this that were some of the reasons why you wanted to detransition, or what was the catalyst of that?
Well, there's not one reason. It would be great if there was just like one reason, but there's not one simple answer to that question. It's a series of things that happened to me. I like I said, I got sober and I stopped using drugs and alcohol. Mm-hmm. I had, spent like a year, off of everything. I went into therapy and I started to.
So when you got sober, you stopped hormones as well?
No. I stayed living as trans for a year. Okay. And I went into therapy, and I'd never been in therapy before. And I started to really, one of the things they suggest for you when you're a person in recovery is that you take a look at your, behavior, and you take a look at the reason why you did the things you did. And so I took a very deep dive into some of the things that I did and the reasons I did them. And I started to understand that I really did a lot of them for the wrong reasons, and that I was very depressed. I was suicidal. Oncoming trains started to look good to me that whole first year. And, there's a new book out. I don't want to, this new book called Detransition Baby. It's a novel about another person who detransitions, written by a trans woman. She talked in an interview, which I sent Bunny to look at, about, it's just a tough life. I had done everything I could possibly do. I got married. I fell in love. I had a career. I acted. I worked regular menial jobs. I was passing. I had all of these things that I did. In every single turn, I faced one more obstacle. Mm-hmm. So it was so difficult. And the thing about what trans people don't, some of them do, but what most trans people don't understand about my story is that it's a cautionary tale. It's a tale of, it's fucking hard to be a trans person. And it was so hard for me in the 70s and 80s. I just said, the hell with this. I'm done with this. The beauty, the glamour, the fame, the money, the everything else, none of that really mattered because it was so difficult. And I've said before, it nearly killed me. It really did almost kill me.
So how long had you been living for a woman, as a woman, not for a woman, before you decided to detransition, live your life as a man? And also, since trans wasn't even that accepted back then, what were maybe your friends, maybe even your therapist had not even heard of detransitioning, or certainly they would have little experience with it.
Well, I do know a few other people that are not out about it, like I am, because we live in a society that judges people when they change their minds or they make mistakes. So for some people, I guess it's not safe to be out about their decision to maybe not continue to be trans or go down the trans narrative. And I also think because of AIDS, a lot of people in my generation are not here. So we lost a whole generation of people my age. And many of them, might have struggled with similar things that I did and didn't go as far as I did, or maybe took a shot here or there, or dressed up a little bit here and there and decided it wasn't for them. So we don't have those stories today. But if you go on YouTube, you'll be shocked at what you see on YouTube. If you put detransition in on YouTube, it's like, I stopped counting at 200.
Wow.
Right.
Because I was writing a paper about it for school, and I had to do some research, and I was really surprised.
And you were living for how many years as a trans woman before you detransitioned?
Almost 15 years.
15 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Got it. Wow.
I mean, I would imagine that being trans gets harder as you age.
Well, that too. I did ask myself, do I want to be an old lady or do I want to be an old man? I mean, that was a question.
Yeah.
I was very honest about my expectations of, the choices that I'd made up until that point. And up until that point, I really didn't feel like I had any other choice. So all of a sudden, I was presented with choices because I wasn't people pleasing. I wasn't living for the attention. I wasn't doing it because you, Bunny, thought it was a good idea that I should do it. I wasn't doing it for show or for fun. So the choices became, much more possible.
Right.
Well,
we're now at a time when there is a huge trans narrative. I mean, if you look on any gay publication, and this was not the case 10
10
years
years
ago,
ago. 10
maybe
years.
not even 8 years ago,
No.
where there's plenty of stories of trans people and, coming out as non-binary or just rejecting, on Drag Race, Gottmik, who I'm on this tour with, a trans man who does drag as a woman, is on the show saying, crash the system, in other words, the system of cisgendered people. In other words, gender is what you can, is a
What you make
construct.
it.
But so, yes, we should all experience, we should be open to other gender, equations. But your experience as someone who was trans and then detransitioned is also valid. And here's where it gets a little bit sticky. I know you. I think I'm pretty familiar with your politics as a Democrat. But, when you told me that there are people who are on the right who seek to use people who detransition as an example that trans itself is bad, and that because they're all saying, let's crash the system, be the trans, be the non-binary, be the they, be the them, or whatever. So they can sometimes people who want to discredit the idea of transitioning itself might try to use examples of the people who do detransition to discredit the trans movement. And all you're saying is, this is what happened to me. You're not recommending that other people who have successfully transitioned and loved it. You're just saying, this is what my life was. And if we're going to talk about, the importance of being gender fluid, well, honey, you were male, you were female, and then you were male again. So you are fluid. And you said that when presenting your, because you have a book, you have a documentary, and you have a play that I never got to see. I've seen the documentary and the book, but so this is we have to. We can't just embrace the trans people who follow our narrative. And you told me that when you showed someone in a creative field something about your work, which is based on your life, their comment was, J.K. Rowling, would enjoy this. In other words, that you were somehow, that she would enjoy it because she is a trans exclusionary radical feminist, also known as a TERF. In fact, I don't even know that that's what she is, but that's what she's accused of being, and that's what she's allied with. Sometimes I don't know exactly what went on with that, but regardless, that's hurtful. And you mentioned Calpurnia Adams. She challenged some of the trans narrative, and then they were calling her a post-op trans woman, a drag queen who performs in gay bars, which is a way to devalue her transition and make it seem like she didn't go all the way. She's still, a gay man, which is that's misgendering coming from the trans community. So, has that been challenging? Because what I'm trying to say is that because your story does not fit neatly into the narrative of, oh, yay, let's all be trans. Like I say, in no way are you suggesting people shouldn't transition. You're just telling your story, which involved a detransition. Are you getting pushback from people who would like for your story to be something that it isn't?
Well, yeah. That does exist. And, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't hurtful. I know back in the 80s when I did start to do this, even our dear friend Crisis, she was freaked out. I even...
That you detransitioned?
My trans friends, sort of kicked me out of the tribe. They were they thought it was they didn't understand. And I'm just one person. And my story is really more universal if you really look at it. The universal theme of the search for self-acceptance within oneself. It's really, everyone can identify with that. But I find it really hypocritical for anyone, gay men, trans women, to question my choices when me, you, Monet, everybody else has been fighting for years for equality in our own identities, whether it's gay or gay or bi or trans or whatever. So I find that when people like the person that you mentioned said, "Oh, J.K. Rowling would," I mean, they don't even know anything. They knew nothing about me. They made a judgment prior to any investigation. So I think that kind of stuff is really, really very hypocritical. And, I'm the last one to ever tell anyone what to do. And I've been lucky that I've been able to sort of avoid being, I've been approached by the right wing media, and I've declined to engage in any kind of I that's not something that I ever want to, be used for or put myself in a position to be used as.
So a lot of times we're told, by Janet Mock or Laverne Cox, do not refer to at what point a trans person has had surgery. Like, you don't need to know. Maybe they have boobs and maybe they don't have the bottom surgery, but you've mentioned International Crisis and saying that she was proud of being a trans woman with a penis. I mean, this was why guys were coming to her. This is something that she used in her act. But this is very, very much changed because we're seeing a lot of trans people in the media, but we are mainly being told, like I was even told when I mentioned that someone was a post-op, don't refer to at what point they're along in their transition. And I just thought, wow, in my day, that meant that you went on a journey and you finished it. It was not like a way to be like, oh, get into your business. It was like, did you finish this journey? Did you go on this journey? Did you stay here or whatever? So, I mean, this is different from when we were coming up.
Kids.
Yeah.
So how?
Because that was the first thing you ask. Oh, she's, transsexual. Post-op or pre-op? You just asked that. It wasn't like a negative thing.
Did she have the change?
Right. It wasn't a negative thing at all. So with your detransition, I mean, how long did that take? Was it difficult? I mean, you went, as we said, from bombshell, back to being a man, to being so desirable that people wanted to pay for your pussy, to, Brian, who did find love, and you've been with the same partner for 20 years, but having your breasts removed, the effects of hormones going away, how long and how difficult was that process?
Well, it was a very difficult process, as was the first one. It took a while. I know for the first year or so, I was, still being misgendered. People, had a hard time making the shift from, my name. I would even run into, everybody in the street. Hey, Tish, hey, Tish, hey, Tish. And I mean, there are a few people that still, refer to me that way, which is fine. But the physical, I know people are uncomfortable talking about the physical stuff, but I'm not. I had very large breasts. The first thing I did was stop taking hormones. And that was like welcome to puberty, because the thousands and thousands of dollars I spent on electrolysis, everything came popping back like I was a teenager. Yes. My hairy chest, my Portuguese, hairy, Russian, Portuguese, all came back like, wow, gangbusters. Not right away, but over the year. And then I had to have my implants removed. Wow. Which was a fairly easy procedure. I borrowed the money from my then roommate and paid her back every penny. But then I had small breasts. And then I had to get rid of them. I had no money. And this is a whole saga. I think I wrote a little bit about it in my book, but I've been saving it for my next book. But I didn't have any money. I was on welfare at the time. I was, getting Medicaid. And so I went to a teaching school, and I had to go in front of a board of plastic surgeons because they were afraid to do the breast reduction surgery because they didn't want to get sued. So here I am. I finally decided, okay, this is what I want to be. This is, and it's kind of similar to what kids go through now with their parents and their families about like, this is what I want to do now. And it was the opposite for me because now I had decided to retransition and get rid of my breasts. And I was being told by the medical community, no, we're not going to do it. They wouldn't do it for me. So a good friend, went to the bank, was going to sign a loan for me to pay for a private plastic surgeon. I met a really lovely private plastic surgeon who eventually did the surgery, and it was very painful, and it took a very long time to heal. And then I had to go to the gym and work out and build up muscle and lift weights and become like a gym bunny. And, it was around the time of ACT UP, so I was running around with that crowd and, trying to, like, assimilate that kind of a gay, because that was the only gay that I had to model myself after. But it was a very painful process.
Wow.
Especially when they told me, no.
No, you can't get in.
And it was during HIV and AIDS, and so one doctor started to question me and say, "Oh, well, you were a drug addict, weren't you?" And I was like, "Yeah. Well, what does that have to do with my decision to have plastic surgery?" And then, of course, I kind of figured out where they were going. They were afraid because of HIV. That was the real reason why they didn't want to do the surgery at this one particular teaching school. So,
so another thing that has really changed is the younger generation's focus on pronouns and getting everything correct. I mean, almost policing language. You've said about this in an interview that we need to evolve with gender. We need to evolve with gender stuff. You say, quote, "But I'm not fond of policing others. Back in my day, and I'm not going to say this word because they'll jump on me. It sounds like tyranny, and it rhymes with granny, and it starts with a TR, was a term of endearment and a compliment. Everyone needs to find their own comfort level, but I'm the last one to tell anyone what to do." I mean, the thing that strikes me about this is that word, which is considered like the ultimate no-no, it was freely used by trans people themselves, and it was not really frowned on as it is today as the ultimate slur. And it is in use among, especially of our generation, trans people. Jane County was booted off of Facebook for saying that word, and she is one. Yeah. So it doesn't, what do you make of today's fascination or policing of language? It's very different. It feels very different to me.
Well, I just go with, I want to pay respect to people wherever they want it. If you want to call me, Her Majesty, I'm down with, if you call me Her Majesty, call me, whatever. But
no, that's my pronoun.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But okay, I'll take Her Highness. Her Highness. That's my pronoun for today. So Her Highness.
Yeah.
But I think that people have the right to be called whatever they want to be called, and I do find it uncomfortable because, like you, I'm from another generation, and I also, a lot of trans women use the word queen. And they refer to themselves like drag queens, queen. Now, if you call a trans woman a queen, you're going to get in trouble for that today. But we always refer to each other as queen. Queen, are you crazy? Queen, hurry up. Queen.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so it
And that could also be applied to a gay man, a drag queen, a trans. One thing that I find is so different is that having always been a drag queen that feels an affinity with trans people, like the one that really inspired me to become a drag queen, who was trans in Chattanooga, Tasha Khan, Chattanooga's own bubbling brown sugar. I feel that we're putting up these rigid boxes now that actually sometimes drives the community apart, when I, for one, have always felt so close to trans people. And I'm not trans, but I feel that the drag, because I'm putting on women's clothes, is somehow tied to that. Not the same thing, you know?
Yeah.
But
there is definitely intersection between trans between a trans woman experience, a trans man, and drag, like for sure, like definitely, and like a lot
that's
of,
how Peppermint
as we know,
performs is trans, but she performs as a drag queen. That's what she says.
And like a lot of my trans friends, they were drag queens first. Like they explored with drag first, and then they were like, wait, I actually like doing this, and they discovered their transness through drag. So it's like a big thing.
Or they're trans and they're booked to, after they put on wigs and false eyelashes to go and perform at drag bars.
Yeah, like all of those girls down at the Parliament House, Giselle Barbie Royale, like all these Chantel DeMarco, all these amazing trans women who are also queens,
Well, there was one who came up to me and would lower her voice. She looked completely like a woman, and lower her voice and tell me, "Yo, holla at your boy." And I would hit the ground every time because, one thing that I think is funny is that often we're protecting, trans women so much that we fail to realize that they have an incredible sense of humor and can be very salty. They can be intelligent. They can be dumb. They can be bitches. They can be sweet. They can be anything. They're just like...
It's almost like they're human.
Exactly.
Almost.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, it's almost like they're human beings. It's so crazy. We all know, growing up, cereal was one of the best parts of a kid for me, but they're full of sugar and all the junk that you should not be eating as a kid. Thank God Magic Spoon is here.
I've been trying to cut down on carbs, sugar, and unhealthy food, and realize I basically can't eat anything anymore because processed foods do have a lot of sugar.
Magic Spoon has 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving. They only have 140 calories per serving, and, especially in LA living, they're keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, low-carb, and GMO-free.
And there's a variety pack of this delicious cereal with 4 flavors: cocoa, fruity, frosted, and peanut butter.
I really like the cocoa and mixing it with the frosted, because another brand that I can't say, but they do frosted cocoa something fantasies, but this is basically the same thing, but you have all of the benefits of Magic Spoon, so you're not eating unhealthy cereal. It's great. It's delicious. It tastes honestly like the cereal from my childhood, but I know I'm eating something way better for my body, which is an added plus, of course, for sure.
It's delicious but super healthy cereal that really brings joy to your mornings.
Go to magicspoon.com/Ebony to grab a variety pack and try it today. And be sure to use our promo code Ebony at checkout to save $5 off your order.
And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it is backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/Ebony and use code Ebony to save $5 off.